Robert Carson, Raleigh, New Jersey. I was here at the last regular meeting and ask questions and then make statements about the stadium project for Robert River Park. And we were told repeatedly that there are no contracts. Okay, well, I have some documents here that I obtained through the Open Public Records Act from Union County's freeholder's office. And before I get to them, though, I would like to make a comment on this fact sheet that's being handed out or made available in the back of the room. Number one says, the project is not a full stadium. It is an upgrade of an existing track and field. Quite an upgrade. It will include lighting, sound and scoreboards, 3 buildings, and seats, plus a chain link fence, which some say is 4 feet high, others say 6. The city, it also goes on to say the city of Rahway has proposed installing standard aluminum bleachers to seat up to 1,200 persons, not 5,200. Well, the city of Rahway is not really proposing this. It's in contract. And this document seems to be written by a public relations person who's trying to make an unpopular project more acceptable. It mentions that there are already bleachers at the baseball and softball fields in the park. There are bleachers there, but they're the kind of bleachers that hold about a few dozen people each. So it's nothing like what's proposed for the field. It says a 4-foot chain link fence will go around the track. Well, the contract I have says 6 foot. And they mentioned that the purpose of this is to keep motorized vehicles off the track. Well, I often practice soccer in that park, and I have never seen even a bicycle on that track. There's a sign there asking people to stay off the track with any kind of improper materials and vehicles, and I've never seen anybody violate that proposal. Okay, so, but to speak to the contract question, this is a document from July 12th, 2011, and it's to the Neglia Engineering Associates. And it says it's a contract, as Mr. Arruda mentioned, for $116,000. And quoting the document says dates of contract. So there were contracts dating back to 2011. There's another shared services agreement, which is dated September 24th, 2014. And it goes on to list all of the stipulations of the agreement, and it is between the Union County and Rahway. And then there's another document that is dealing with, it's from Ronald Zuber, to Ronald Zuber, the parks manager, and it talks about the contract obligations, and it says bleachers for 5,000 people, press box, team pavilion, bathrooms, concessions, sanitary sewer connections, sound and scoreboard. And this is dated September 29th, 2014. Okay, I recently went to Rahway, where I live, and put in another Oprah request for material related to this project, and they are now overdue. They have not answered the question. I would like somebody on the freeholder board to speak to the question of why is it so difficult to get information about these things. This is something that's going to affect Rahway far into the future. And people have a right to know what is being proposed for this expenditure of their tax dollars. And why is it so difficult? You told us last meeting there are no contracts, and there are obviously contracts dating back to 2011. So I'd like somebody to address it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those contracts that you're referencing, if you can apply a copy to our clerk, I'd certainly like to look at it. Sounds to me that those are shared services agreements with the city of Rahway, not construction agreements, which is what you referenced last meeting, which the speaker referenced last time. Those are construction contracts. Those can't begin until there's a formal vote by the freeholder board, which has not occurred at this time. Those contracts cannot be entered into by the county manager without the approval of the freeholder board. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time?
Again, I'm Jeff Freeman. I live in Raleigh, New Jersey. The contracts, or what you may call them, that Mr. Carlson has there, which I've seen mention lighting for the stadium. You don't have to call it a stadium if you don't want to, but lighting is certainly part of the proposals. It's very well known that outdoor nighttime lights are severely disruptive to birds and other wildlife, to the growth of trees and other plants. They just throw their diurnal clocks, which are very necessary to their growth and their coordination with other wildlife and other plants, totally off. They're also the little bit of the beautiful night sky that we can still see from polluted and light polluted New Jersey will be further blacked out. There'll be tremendous impacts of these lights on local households, which will bring down the property value and make it very difficult to enjoy being outdoors or even not have light come floating into your house. So the question then is, there are now standards for lighting to reduce the impact. I'm not saying I want it. I'm totally against this plan. It's very disruptive in many, many ways. The littering, the crowds, the traffic, and it is absurd that no plan is made for parking, because there's no way you can accommodate all those cars that would put the stadium in. But even so, if there is to be lighting, what are the specifics of the design to reduce the impact on the sky, to keep the lights down? What are the specifics to keep the lights from flooding out of the park all around? What is the maximum number of nights that's expected that there will be night events that will use these lights? What's the maximum total amount of illumination from all these lights? All of these questions are absolutely vital. I don't know that any consideration has been given to this by Rahway or the county, and I want these questions answered.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing?
Of the Coalition to Save Historic Rahway River Park. And I have prepared a short statement about Rahway River Park's Olmsted design, which I would like to read out. It seems to me that a division has been made in your minds between the open space areas and the developed areas of sport recreation in our park. It's as if you believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that these developed areas are completely separate from the open spaces in the park, and that they therefore do not apply to the Olmsted ideology. I have in my hands an historic American engineering record that states the Olmsted brothers' work included the original design for the football field and track, a number of the tennis courts, a mall area, and various planted trees, which to me says these developed areas are all inclusive in the Olmsted design ideology. Therefore, any upgrades you do on the current footprint should take these theories into consideration. And by my estimation, a state-of-the-art 1,200-seat regulation-sized track and football stadium does not comply with the intended Olmsted design. And just to give you an example of how Olmsted envisioned his park designs and his intention for the scenery, here are a couple of excerpts I pulled from the olmsted.org website, beginning with a quote from Frederick Waugh Olmsted. "The root of all my good work is an early respect for, regard, and enjoyment of scenery." Olmsted used the pastoral style to create a sense of the peacefulness of nature and to soothe and restore the spirit. This style was the basic mode of Olmsted's park designs, which he intended to serve as a setting for unconscious or indirect recreation. Scenery, Olmsted decided, worked by an unconscious process to produce relaxing and unbending faculties made tense by the strain of noise and artificial soundings of urban life. The necessary condition for such an experience was the absence of distractions and demands on the conscious mind. The effect came not as a result of examination, analysis or comparison, nor of appreciation of particular parts of the scene. Rather, it came in such a way that the viewer was unaware of its workings. So all I'm asking is that you respect the Olmsted ideology intended for Rahway River Park as a whole. Thank you.
Anyone else with any comments?
My name is Susan Salamak. I've lived in Broadway for a total of 34 years and in Union County for 45 years. And I'd like to applaud what Ruth has read and further state that there is a justification that has been voiced that there is development in the park already, therefore increasing that, quote unquote, improving it would just be an extension. And we've been asked to consider how Warnaco Park has also is redeveloping their stadium. I need to point out that Warnaco Park is several times larger than Rahway River Park. Also, that the development in Warnaco Park is on the periphery, including the existing stadium, or the stadium which was demolished, and the new stadium which is to go in. What I will call the Great Lawn, or the meadow, is untouched by that development. If you have a bird's eye view of the Rahway River Park, you do see that track. But up until recently, you couldn't see the track until you fell into it, because it was some 9 inches to a foot below the level of the grass. It has since been improved. It is now somewhat visible because new pavement has been put in. And frankly, I think that made it safer. I'm all for that. Whenever I'm in the park, I do respond to that open space. It is expansive. There's really nowhere else in the town to experience that, and that is valuable. I hope that people respond to this and understand this and what they will lose if a structure goes in that central lawn. And another point that I'd like to make, the other question I have, and I really have many questions, but I think the central question is, who asked for this? Where was the meeting and when was the meeting where the residents of Union County, and particularly Broadway and Clark, stood up and said en masse, we need artificial turf stadium for football, and please put it right in the middle and take up most of the central lawn of Rahway River Park. I missed that meeting. If the residents of Rahway and Clark did not ask for it, who asked for it?
Thank you.
John Burry, Kenilworth, and I can answer that. Now, I was at Rahway River Park first time, and it looks a little like a bigger Tamake's, a smaller Warnaco. It seemed like a really stupid idea to put a stadium in there. But again, wouldn't be the first stupid idea. I recall anybody who sees the Galloping Hill Clubhouse on exit 138, $25 million for what? And they call it super adequacy. It's a complete waste of money. The Runnels sale, that was gone through the Union County Improvement Authority. It was a disaster. I mean, you ask anybody on the ground, any of the nurses, any of the 30 who were dead, or then and the ones later, putting solar panels everywhere. $15 million in bonding, the bonds defaulted, which is incidentally why you had to sell Runnels. You had to pay off the bonds to the Union County Improvement Authority. All these things had one thing in common. There's a law firm called Dakotas Fitzpatrick. They're the general counsel for the Union County Improvement Authority, and they get about $1 million in fees. And they get those $1 million if these dumb projects continue, and they are continuing, just like this one. Now, I looked at it since 2009. About 17 or 18 lawyers, however many ever it takes, put in $30,000 to freeholder campaigns each election cycle. They put in like 1,621. They're exactly the same number. You total them up, it comes to $30,000. They skipped 2012, but 29, 10, 11, they got back to 13, 14. Same $30,000. And those are the people who are asking for this. Now, to put into some context, or why did they pick Rahway? I don't know. It's a really bizarre idea, but they had to build something. But they didn't just give the $30,000 to the freeholders. If you look at the New Jersey election records, on June 3rd, 2014, Dakotas extended this practice. Actually, there were 20 lawyers instead of 16. They each gave $130 each, total $2,600, to the campaign of Samson D. Steinman for mayor of Rahway. That same day, and just look at their election records, look up people who are employed by Dakotas and what they give. That same day, June 3rd, 2014, those same 20 lawyers, none of them live in Rahway, none of them live in Union County. They gave $500 each, total of $10,000, to, and I don't know these names, Miles, Mojica, Baker, and Jacoby, Rahway Democrats. I don't know if they won, they probably did, but for that local campaign, that's a lot of money. So basically, they bought up the freeholder board for the $30,000, and they bought off these people, and who asked for it? Dakotas.
Hi, Barbara Majeski from Rahway. My husband and I took a ride this afternoon to Avenel Middle School. And I know it's in Middlesex County, but they have a field that was well below sidewalk grade. And I called the principal up, and it was filled with at least 10 feet of soil to bring it up above street level so they could put cricket fields in. I called the parks and management, the grounds management, but unfortunately he was at a meeting, he couldn't return my call, and I told him the situation that we were having in Rahway. And my question was, if you could put 10 feet of soil to put on 2 huge cricket fields at Avenel Middle School, why can't the flood engineers raise Rahway Field and fill that with soil to bring up a field? Because we flooded in our old library, but the city didn't have a problem putting up these tennis courts and parking for people from our county or out of town to come and use those. But my question was, with Avenel, if the Middlesex County Board of Freeholders had anything to do with contributing money to that. But as I said, unfortunately, the man was at a meeting, or he just figured I was some nut calling and didn't want to respond. But if you take a ride down there, it's right past Home Depot, first traffic light, and make a left-hand turn, and you'll see that those 2 cricket fields that are now well above ground level, so the kids can use those fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Pat Moschetti, New Providence. There's more than the usual number of people in the audience tonight, and I would urge anyone who wants to talk about Rahway Park Stadium, come up and say something. Sitting in the back and just listening doesn't really help. You need to talk. So I urge you to do that. It's not that embarrassing. You can say a few words, or you can say I agree with somebody else, to show the freeholders the scope of what's going on. So please get out of your seats and say something. Thank you.
Good evening, Kelly Tropiano, Park. I represent the Coalition to Save Rahway Park. I have a couple of questions regarding the updated statement that was provided for tonight's meeting. You say that this project is not a full stadium. I'm guessing because the amount of seats that have been reduced, you consider it's not a stadium. Well, I'd like to know your definition of a stadium, because the only thing this is missing is a dome. So that's question number one. The other question I have is regarding construction of new parking spaces. If in fact this stadium or not stadium is built and there's 1,200 seats, where do you expect all the vehicles that belong to those seats go to park if no new parking is being constructed, which is, I think, being said so that the people don't feel like their park is being destroyed and that open space is not being paved over. However, there are only 400 spaces in that park. So if we're not building new spaces and we have seating for 1,200, where do those vehicles go once you reach the maximum of 400 spots that currently exist? I also would like to know if and when the Freeholder Board is going to hold their forum meeting. They agreed to have, the last time I attended a freeholder meeting, we discussed, or it was stated, that the freeholders would like to have an open forum meeting with the citizens, so all these things can be discussed and explained in more depth. And as of now, I don't know if that meeting has been scheduled. I don't know how I would be notified of it, but I'm hoping there would be some sort of mailing or information provided to people who are concerned. So if and when that meeting is scheduled, I would like to be notified. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Hi, my name's Albert Kaliba from Linden. I just wanted to talk about the Rawway River Park destruction. I agree with most of the previous comments made by people here from the coalition. And I just wanted to add that 3 days ago there was an Associated Press article stating that a House committee in Minnesota is devoting $50,000 to a study on the safety of artificial turf. There's concerns that the crumb pellets used in artificial turf, the bits of recycled tire pieces used to construct this, may cause forms of blood cancer and bone cancer. And I just wanted to know if the committee was aware of this. Thank you.
You. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Scott Verda, Clark. I was in the park on Sunday night and I was measuring the existing track. And while I went out there was a group of a family, basically, of little kids, teenagers, grandparents, parents, and they were playing soccer on the field, having a great time. And you know, I looked at them and I realized that when this turf field goes in, they won't be there anymore. They won't be allowed on that field. I'm going to get to that, but I wanted to say something about this issue of an upgrade. When I measured that track, which is a 6-lane track, it measures 230 feet across and 450 feet long. If you take the stadium drawings that were prepared, I guess, by Neglia, and you scale this off, this complex is 350 feet wide and 650 feet long. And we've taken that scale and we've set it on top of the map of the park. And what you can see is that this stadium, and that's what it is, crushes one of the baseball fields completely. And there's no, but this layout, we don't have any idea of what kind of access roads you're going to prepare, because when you have a football game, you've got to have ambulances nearby, you have to have EMT availability. None of that shows. So this is huge. And to talk about the turf issue, I have something that I'd like to read. A multi-purpose park or field is supposed to accommodate a whole range of human activity, from hosting sporting events to walking to exercising your pooch, from sunbathing, picnicking under starlit skies, or just viewing the passing of the seasons. The conversion of multi-purpose fields and parks to artificial turf, multi-sport playing fields reserves under lock and key the use of public lands to a certain defined and limited set of activities at certain times. Moreover, the protection of the artificial surface, more demanding than a Persian silk carpet, limited a variety of objects and activities on the premises, such as chewing gum, seeds, animals, vehicular traffic, certain beverages, folding chairs, footwear. Most artificial turf field complexes come with fences. Typically, the use of, and of course this one does, it's going to be surrounded by a 6-foot chain link fence according to specifications. The use of the field is regulated through a permitting process, and unauthorized people in the field are subject to arrest for trespass. In many communities, the so-called nonprofit sport leagues and boosters defray all or a substantial part of the cost of installing, maintaining, or replacing of the turf fields in an arrangement that the city or town officials like to call a public-private partnership. Of course, in this case, we have a public-public partnership. It's a partnership, all right. The use of public lands and some of the public treasure is pony up in favor of a gated eco-desert rug with limited use and questionable appeal. I've taken screenshots off of the internet of warning signs that are on turf fields or all around the country. This one reads, The town of Westport encourages all those using artificial turf fields to observe the following recommendations. 1, wash hands and expose body parts aggressively after playing on the fields. 2, turn clothes inside out as soon as possible to avoid trapping dust to other locations. 3, keep beverages closed and in bags and coolers when not drinking to avoid excessive dust and fibers from getting into the beverage. Eating on the field is prohibited. Here's another one. No metal cleats, gum, Gatorade, trash, cigarettes, pets on the turf field. Water only on the field. Organized by use by permit only. No trespassing by unauthorized persons. Here's another one. Field for use by permit only. Police take notice. Per order at Waltham Parks Recreation Department. Here's another one. Prohibited. Food, candy, peanuts, sunflower seeds or gum, tobacco products of any kind, glass and metal containers, tables, unapproved chairs, barbecue grills, sport drinks, soda, coffee, beverages other than water, including Gatorade is banned. Sharp objects such as pen sticks, corner flags, objects that would penetrate the artificial surface, bicycles, skates, scooters, skateboards, golfing, javelin, metal cleats or marking of lines, dogs, pets, or other animals. And to finish up, if you don't mind, at just another moment.
Your time is over. Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I'm Stan Majeski, I'm from Norway, New Jersey. I'd like to talk about park about the turf. These are articles we have, and there's quite a few of them here, and especially one here. It's from North Arlington, New Jersey. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection denies permit for artificial turf field due close to Passaic rivers due to flooding concerns. That's one of them. Okay. And we have quite a few of them here, and one's from Wyndham, New Hampshire. Voters reject funding for artificial turf field, April 2015. South Pasadena, California, council votes against synthetic grass at city parkways. Water conservative would not compensate for cultural environmental issues. We got from Denver, Colorado, one from Toronto, Canada. 2 more professional fields converting to natural grass, March 2015. Bronxville, New York, thumbs down on our artificial turf. Hohokus, New Jersey, thumbs down on our artificial turf, 2015, January. Clinton, Connecticut, voters overwhelmingly reject artificial turf on 2015. 2 communities in Jersey, Glen Rock, Glen Ridge, 2 in Maine, Great and New Gloucester, and Illinois reject funding for artificial turf, November 2014. Ocean City, New Jersey, interview of concern over crumb rubber infill city mixes conversion of natural grass field to artificial, November 2014. West Deptford, New Jersey, voters reject artificial turf, October 2014. South Bend, Indiana, artificial turf field to be replaced with natural grass, September 2014. Little Silver, New Jersey. Sickles Fan Park will remain grass for now, August 2014. Murphy City, Texas, no more residential artificial turf in plain public site. What we're hearing about this artificial turf is really, really terrible. Even in Hawaii, county officials say maintaining grass field is more cost effective than installing artificial turf. Scrap plants for artificial turf. Natural grass rolls on St. Clementine's Landmark Culture Center at Casamiglia, I guess it's California, and San Clemente, California, no to artificial turf historic site. Remember, historic site, Oway Park. Olin, New York, natural grass to replace asphalt, not asphalt turf, February 2014. What's that saying to you guys? Come on. It's plain as day. It ain't no good.